What is up, fam? It is Lauren. It is so nice to have you guys back. So I know I haven't done like a long form video in a long time, and I'm going to be making more of these, but today I wanted to make a very special video. Today I'm giving you my brain. Okay, what does that entail? So I am a fetus defender. I'm an anti-abortion advocate. I really cannot stand the abortion industry. I hate it. I think it's so demeaning towards women. I think it's one of the worst blights that American history has ever allowed into this country. So what am I doing? I'm giving you my brain today. So I am really popular on TikTok. It's kind of how I made like a lot of my followers, was people knew me as an anti-abortion advocate. And so I made this playlist called Don't Kill Kids. Yes, literally, it's called Don't Kill Kids, and I think it's like the coolest thing ever. So I make this playlist and I talk about all these different things. Usually it's really short because, you know, TikTok 1 minute. So today I kind of wanted to form everything that I make in those videos, and I wanted to share it with you guys, so you just had one video that spans like all of the information, all of the knowledge, everything you know, so that you can also be a well-educated, well-informed pro-life advocate. So one of my most popular videos on my TikTok, on more than one page actually, is my defeating every abortion argument I can think of in 60 seconds. Now I only have 60 seconds to make a point and to get a bunch of points across, so people usually skip out on a lot of the information that I have acquired over the years. So I'm going to do kind of like that form, except I'm going to be expanding on it. So one of the most popular questions, or one of the most popular arguments that I get, is that a fetus is not alive. Obviously we know this is not true. We know that science obviously backs it up that it is alive. We know for a fact that a human is living because dead things, they can't grow. At least biological dead things, they can't grow. So obviously we're gonna throw that argument out. That's a terrible argument. That's not good. The next thing would be, well, then it's not a person. Problem is, when we get into that route, we're going down a philosophical route. And so your life has to have value. You have to have intrinsic value from day one of conception, or else why do you have intrinsic value at 35 years old and not 3 weeks old as a fetus? Like, you go down the philosophical route and people don't want to go down the philosophical route. So we have to draw it at conception, because there is no other point that you can't take a child, a fetus, a baby. By the way, fetus means unborn baby, because that's a big deal to them for some reason. So fetus means unborn baby. You can't take that something with a fetus and apply it to an adult. You're like, well, a fetus doesn't have a heartbeat. Well, there are people that have pacemakers. Are they not alive? They don't have brain waves. They don't have brain action. Well, we can't go around killing people in comas. We can't do that, especially if you know that the coma patient is going to come back to life. So a lot of little arguments like that, just kind of all crammed into one, but you can pretty much pick and choose those. Next up is going to be life of the mother. Okay, let's talk about life of the mother. So according to AAPLOG, according to Dublin Declarations, as well as former abortionist Dr. Anthony Levatino, there's actually no reason for you to go in and discriminate against a child, to kill a child to save a mother's life. Okay, this is going to be a shocking one. There's a lot to unpack, but the first case is going to be if it's a disease, if it's a problem, if people are having issues during the later trimesters. They usually happen during the later trimesters. And what you would do is you would have a C-section. Those are what C-sections are made for. There's no reason to go in and intentionally kill the child. When we're talking about the early stages, so that would be when the mother is in the first trimester. We're talking about early stages. There's no reason to medically go in and kill that child. Say the mother has cancer, okay? It's okay for the mom to have chemo. Will the chemo kill the child? The chemo's intention is not to kill the child. The chemo's intention is to save the mother. If the child unfortunately passes away due to the chemo, that's still not an abortion. Because let's start with defining abortion. So abortion is going to be a medical procedure that would be considered a failure if the child lived. So because the chemo is intended not to kill the child but to save the mother, that wouldn't be an abortion. Because where am I getting this definition? Where is this coming from? This is coming from most of the laws that are written. You can look at the bills, individual state bills, all of these lovely things that people like to fearmonger about and like, oh, we can't do this, X, Y, and Z. No, read the bills. That's what I say to most people, is read the bills. But there is no medical condition that is going to make you go in and discriminately kill the child to save the life of the mom. Again, there are extenuating circumstances where the mom can receive treatment that might hurt the child, but again, the intention of the treatment is not to hurt the child, it's to save the mother. So there's mens rea. We like to call that mens rea in criminal justice world. We like to call that mens rea. Fun stuff, right? So the next thing we're going to talk about is ectopic pregnancies. That word has been tossed around like confetti all over the place. Nobody knows what ectopic pregnancies are before we started talking about like abortions and Roe v. Wade and all that jazz that came up. So ectopic pregnancies are going to be a pregnancy where the pregnancy is going to occur in anywhere but the uterus, anywhere but where the baby is actually supposed to be. That could be on the fallopian tubes, it could be on the liver. Basically, an ectopic pregnancy is a pregnancy that is just not viable. Literally, the baby cannot survive because, you know, fallopian tubes are like that big and baby grows to be like that big. It just kills everybody involved. It kills the mother, it can kill the baby. So the biggest issue that most people have to worry about when we're talking about this stuff is that we can go in and remove an ectopic pregnancy because they're just not viable. Baby cannot live. Baby literally cannot live. It's impossible for the baby to live during that. As well as if it does continue to grow, it can kill the mother. So this is again going to be another one of those things where we're thinking about the mens rea, we're thinking about who's going to survive this. Again, there's just no way. That would be the same instance as removing a baby that doesn't have a brain. Can't live. Removing a baby that doesn't have lungs. Again, can't live. All of these things, they're very tragic to the family, and it's very important that you understand that these parents, they need time to recover, and we should not be forcing this idea that they had an abortion on them. Like, no, that's not okay because there was no way for baby to live. Same thing with the miscarriage. People try to equate miscarriages with abortions. You cannot remove the remains of a miscarriage at an abortion clinic. You literally can't. Same with ectopic pregnancy, by the way. You literally can't remove an ectopic pregnancy at an abortion clinic. You have to do that at a hospital. Okay, the intent is what differentiates the abortion from a miscarriage. In every case, miscarriage, baby is literally dead, cannot, it's removing that. What is wrong with this? I don't know. Now we kind of move away from the medical ideology of things and we move on to people's morality, which is the best thing in the world because you find out how quickly people are morally bankrupt by what they decide to do. So whenever someone decides to have an abortion, they're like, oh, it was a poor mom, like she couldn't take care of a baby. Yeah, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. There's no reason to kill a child. You are literally, you're killing a child. There's no reason to go in and kill a child because everybody deserves life. If you don't have life, no other rights matter. Like, you kind of have to be alive in order to take up rights, you know? That's kind of how that works. I don't know why people don't get that through their heads, but they don't. So when people say, oh, the baby is going to be born into a bad situation, the baby is going to be born into a bad family, I immediately stop listening, immediately, because people, you don't get to decide and you don't get to determine somebody's life before it starts. Think about all of the NBA players, all their stories that went from I literally had nothing to quite literally I built an empire for myself. Like, all of those stories, they can be these kids. And the fact that you think it's your right to play God in this scenario, to kill these kids before they even have a chance to make it on their own, that's quite disturbing. But you can't really deal with people in that issue. A lot of the times when I'm talking with people, it's because they are just set on this idea of women's rights. Okay, I feel like that has been tossed around again like confetti, kind of like ectopic pregnancy. Women's rights? No. It is nobody's rights to kill anyone. I'm sorry, I as a woman, I don't have a right to kill someone. I just don't. And as soon as that baby is born, it is human because the law of biogenesis, again, humans can only have humans. That's why when people say the fetus isn't alive and it's not a human, I'm like, oh right, I forgot. It's a dead zebra. It's so funny for me, so funny. People will often try to bring up the foster care system or the adoption system, okay? These kids are not going into the foster care system because foster care is for kids that have parents, the parental rights are still enacted. These kids are not adoptable. Kids in the foster care system, they're not adoptable yet because the parents still have rights, okay? People kind of forget that. The adoption system, so most babies are adopted like that. Like, most babies are literally adopted like all the time. Actually, right now in the adoption system, there are, I believe, 2 million couples waiting to adopt, so that's about 36 parents for each one child. Then you say, well, Lauren, why are these kids getting adopted? There's a lot of red tape going on. There was a lot of things I think that we can do, legislation that we can pass to help move the process along, because again, I do believe that every child does deserve parents and it's important to get that moving along. But that's not a reason we should keep killing kids. We shouldn't do that, absolutely not. In fact, that diminishes the lives of these kids. That tells them your life was not worth living, you should have been dead. What kind of society are we living in where that's not okay? By the way, when we talk about abortion, we get dangerously close to eugenics. With the idea that it's okay to just start unaliving, to start offing Down syndrome people. Like, people will be like, oh, the baby's gonna be born with Down syndrome, the baby's gonna be born with this disease, the baby's gonna be born with this disability. It's very dangerous. It's a very, very thin wire we are walking. It's very scary because you have to tell these people that are living, that are breathing, that it's not okay. that you're alive, you should have been killed. That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible to tell these children. Next up is my favorite, talking about how SA is involved in everything. Okay. Let's start with some hardcore facts. 1% of reported abortions are actually from SA. That means rape victims. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say on YouTube. That's why you see me censoring my words a lot. But SA, as well as incest, all of those things, 1%. Make up 1% of the abortions reported. Again, that goes back to, you should not be devaluing the lives of these kids just from where they came from. Rape is the only crime in the United States where the child is punished for the father's mistake. Rarely, if ever. I don't think actually the rapist has ever incurred the death penalty, but we throw that so quickly on the child, and that's just not right. There's a massive imbalance of justice right then and there. Whenever you're talking with someone that likes to bring up rape or incest and say, what if the child was X, Y, and Z, this, and this, when they try to come up with like the 1% to justify the other 99, you'll see that's very, very common whenever you talk to somebody that's like an avid pro-choice person, you can just say, well, if those were allowed, if I conceded those, would you be okay with getting rid of all the elective abortions, which make up, I think, around 72% of all abortions, which are basically just, nothing's really wrong, we just don't want the kids. We just don't really want them. They're not it. So 72%. And if they say no, then, well, you get to say, well, you don't get to use that as an argument. I'm really sorry. I think someone told me one time that they use the 1% to justify the 99 because they're trying to break through the morality barrier that we see. And I think that's so dumb, because if I didn't think that abortion was immoral, if I didn't think that abortion was taking a human life, and I didn't think that, you know, babies deserve to live, again, don't kill kids, then I wouldn't be for abortion. I told this one girl that if you could prove to me that the baby was not a living human, I would be pro-choice and you could kill the baby. But she could not do that because obviously science declares that that is a living human. So absolutely not, no thank you. 96% of biologists do agree that the child is living from the point of conception. The 1% is going to be really important though, because even in cases of rape and incest, I do not believe that we should be going around killing kids. No, two wrongs don't make it right, and it's really hard to get that through some people's heads because obviously they think that it's a quick fix for all. But unfortunately, having abortion is it's a dangerous procedure. It's a very, very dangerous procedure, and I think a lot of people discredit that. And it's not the quick fix because killing something doesn't get rid of trauma. These people deserve comfort and they deserve time to recover, but they do not need to be killing people to fix any type of trauma, because it's not going to fix trauma. That's not what it's going to do, and we need to stop lying and doing disservice to these women, because we deserve better than abortion. We deserve better than killing kids. We just do. I'm sorry. So I'll always say, whenever you want to have an abortion, just give the child up for adoption. Literally, just give the child up for adoption. We already covered adoption and foster care and all that jazz, but literally just give the child up for adoption. Honey, please do not kill kids. It's very important. Don't kill kids. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. That's pretty much everything on my mind right now. If you have any questions, comment them down below. I might make a part 2 to this. I don't know. I'm gonna go back through my videos. I'm gonna see what else I've talked about, what else I can make information for, but this is my brain. I hope you've enjoyed this little peek into my brain, and I will see you next time. Love you guys. Bye.